are, my friends. It's Randy, your host of Building Wins Live, and it's another Friday, another Separation Friday. I'm going to remind you that because what do champions do? We separate on Fridays, right? Hey, thanks for joining. Please share this out and look for some more great stuff coming on the road from Building Wins Live. Appreciate your support. Today we have a fun guest, a guy that I've known for we'll probably get into that, but 7 to 8, 10 years probably. John Marchand is a pro in the industry. He's been around a long, long time, and we're going to have some chats about very current information on the steel industry, because we all know in our metal roofing related industry, that's been a battle. It's been a challenge. The supply chain has been an issue, and it's been tough. And John is in the heart of it. So John is the corporate sales. Let me look at this right. Corporate sales manager for Majestic Steel, and he is going to tell us everything he knows about what's going on and where it's been. And before we go, George Henderson, you, my brother, were the first on. You get a prize. You get to have the first beer with me whenever we get together. Anyways, don't go away. We're going to be right back in about 12 seconds, I think, with John Marchand. Come on, does it get better than this?
Absolutely not. How are you, Randy?
You know what? If I'm not you, but next to that, I'm great.
It's good to see you, my friend.
Glad to be
honest. It's taken a while, but I finally made it here.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Well, two brothers of ours are already on there: Barry Broxterman and Zach Biggie.
Yeah, that's another combo.
That's a combo that we probably don't want to talk about here. There's the four of us there that may have been numerous cities around the U.S. together, right? But as Barry says, old school is back, buddy. And so, hey, it's great to see you, man. Thanks for being on. And it's you and I chat back and forth a lot. We've known each other. I was trying to think before the show, how long have we known each other?
I want to say it goes back to 8 to 10 years at least.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. So, so we've worked together in the past, and John is been in the steel industry. You've been in the steel industry for how many years now?
16.
16 years. Wow. So before we get started, one of the things I like to do is do the typical. Who is John Marchand? Let's let people know a little bit more about who you are. I mean, personally, as opposed and professionally.
Sure. I'm married, have 2 kids. One out of college, who's a software engineer. One getting ready to graduate college. I have 2 stepchildren. Beautiful wife that owns a travel agency. Life cannot be any better right now. When I got out of college, I worked for Coca-Cola for a long period of time, learned a lot of sales and marketing skills, had a lot of formalized training. And then my brother-in-law and I went into business together in the roofing side with shingles. We did a lot of low slope, steep slope. And then after Hurricane Katrina, he left to go down to Florida. And then I went to work for a company called Metal Sales Manufacturing that does a lot of metal roofing components, siding. And then did a couple of other stints with a couple of other companies and landed here in December of last year. And it's a great spot, great organization. Love the steel industry. A lot of people say once you get in, you never get out, which I don't have a problem with that. I'm having a lot of fun right now, even though the market's crazy. Just really enjoy helping people solve problems. And right now, there's a lot of issues going on in the marketplace. So the next 30 minutes, if I can help someone better their business, better theirself, then I've done my job.
There you go. There you go. And Majestic Steel, we're a little bit more about them. Where are they located? How many branches around the country? Age of the company? Give us a little. You can do a little commercial here, John.
It's a great time to ask that question. We just put out a press release Wednesday. We just acquired an organization out west, which is going to really help our presence in the West, a company called Merit Steel. We've just acquired them for a large sum of money, and more importantly, the opportunity and connect the dots in the supply chain for a lot of our customers. So we have 5 locations, and with the addition of Merit Steel, we now have 8, and some more exciting news here coming probably in the next 30 days with a greenfield opportunity. So one thing that Todd does very, very well is reinvest in the company. He's our CEO and president, second generation, family owned business, really wants to make a difference in the marketplace, but more importantly, help customers get to where they want to be.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's great to see that he to reinvest in the business.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned something a minute ago that's always big to me and you've always been one thing. John Marchand has always been is you're an engager, and you're engaged in the industry, and you love the industry. And I think you hit it when you said once you get in the steel industry, it's not you never get out, not because you couldn't or don't want to, or it's because you don't want to, right? You just
right.
you make friends, and I refer to customers as customer friends, and I think you operate the same way. You do this so long, it's why would I want to go somewhere else? Because it becomes fun, right? It becomes our life.
Absolutely. The paycheck is a byproduct.
Exactly. Don't say that too loud, or Todd might hear you. Well, if I have to have Wes, we should be on a 7-second delay. That one needed to be zapped. but you know, I worked for a guy once, and no names obviously, but I remember talking about. I said I used to make the statement that I love what I do so much that I would do it for nothing. And at one point, I had to remind this place that I worked for that I was joking. That was a joke. I didn't mean I'd do it for nothing. But let's jump to a question. A friend of mine, a brother, a pal of Wes and I, both, George Henderson, who's a cybersecurity superstar. He says a lot of industries have supply chain problems. Is it raw materials, aggregate components to make your products, transportation, all of the above? Great question, George. Thank you.
Yes, and yes.
And maybe 2 more yeses, right?
Exactly. And let me give you that's a great question too, George, by the way. And something I really wanted to touch on, if we can take something from this chat today, is information is power right now. And up-to-date information is even more important to make purchasing decisions and other types of decision as well, mergers, acquisitions, you name it. So just go back to last August, the CRU, which is the steel benchmark measuring tool, was about $30 a hundredweight, which equates to about $600 a ton. Fast forward 52 weeks of straight upward price momentum, we're at $2,100 a ton, $103 a hundredweight. Doesn't take many mathematicians to figure that out, that prices are very, very high right now. So what that has done, obviously demand has driven that, raw materials has driven that as well. Just, they call it a super cycle that we're in right now. If it can happen, it will. It's almost Murphy's Law. There's so many different components. But one of the major components in this cycle is mill consolidation. Over the past several years, the big keep getting bigger and the smaller go away. For example, 15, 20 years ago, you had over 25 domestic steel mills, organizations. Now, 4. You've got Nucor, you've got Steel Dynamics, you've got SDI or US Steel, and Cleveland Cliffs, which last year completed 2 mergers of AK Steel and ArcelorMittal. So the big get bigger, the small go away. So now what they're trying to do is really control the pricing, control capacity, demand. They can't control the demand. So they're being very, very smart. They don't want to go back to the 2008s, the 2016s, the 2018s, to where pricing was very cyclical. They're going to attempt to keep it at a price this high for a very long time. And momentum's been very strong. First of the year, it's not going to change the rest of this year. People are hoping that it changes fourth quarter. That's not going to happen. This is going well into 2022 and perhaps 2023.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? So you don't see any reasonable reduction in cost coming in the near future at all then? So the talk and the hope is just that, a hope and a prayer, right?
Yeah, and we've all been in the industry long enough, right, to remember the corrections, if you will. It will correct, but not at the percentage that it did correct in the past. It's never going to be $30 a hundredweight again. Just look at it this way. You remember, you're a little older than I am, no disrespect, but you remember the days of 60-cent gas and 70-cent gas?
John, I remember 35-cent gas.
I didn't want to go back that far.
Well, that's nice of you.
But it's the concept, right? We're in a new norm, and we're never going to go back to those prices. So folks that are listening and you're hoping that it's going to go back to that. Now, the mills are making way too much money right now. Foreign imports are very low because a lot of foreign countries are keeping the steel and the raw materials to rebuild their infrastructures as well. So they're less to sell it to us. So it's, if you're owning a mill right now and you're in the catbird seat for quite a long time, it's going to be a long ride.
So Wes, keep Zach up for a minute because I want to come back to that, please. But so folks listening or listening on replay later or whatever on Memorex, that's another thing. You remember Memorex. So you're that old at least, John.
Yes, sir.
The folks out there that might be going, man, this is getting a little high. Maybe I'll just wait for a while until the prices come down. It sounds like you can do that, but if you need a new roof, you better hope it doesn't start leaking because you're not waiting until, 3 months from now. You're waiting a year or two, maybe, if ever. And it's probably, as you said, never coming down to this level. It'll correct.
No.
But what I'm taking from that conversation is if you need the product, if you need a metal roof, you might as well just buy the metal roof because the big wait or the waiting for that big drop is a farce, I guess is what you're really saying.
Yes. It's interesting you say that. I have a really good friend of mine that has been looking into a steel building for quite a long time. And I told him 18 months ago, buy it now. It's steel's at a good price. Who knows what's going to happen in the future because we all can't, we don't have a crystal ball. So buy it now. And he's been contacting me every 3 or 4 months. And I tell him, buy it now. I know it's going to come back down. It's going to come back down. Dude, it's not going to come back down to where you want it to be. And not only the price you pay, but what we face now is a different deal. It's the supply chain, and all industries are fighting this right now. You don't have the trucks to deliver the material. You don't have the drivers to drive the trucks. Steel is sitting at these steel mills for months waiting for somebody to pick it up.
And do you before, and Zach, we will get to you in a minute, buddy. Do you see that? Do your sources tell you that that'll get a little better at some point? Or are we stuck with this port congestion and lack of ships, lack of containers, lack of chassis to get under the container if it finally makes it, lack of labor? I know you have no crystal ball on that, but any gut feelings?
We have a great analytics team, and that's one of the things that separates us from a lot of our competition, that they do a lot of this due diligence in the background and provide us and our customers have access to this information, just different deliverables and measurables and metrics that affect the overall global economy. And trucking is a big piece of it, and they don't see that getting better. I was looking at a note this morning about the American Trucking Association. They're facing massive shortages of drivers right now. They're with this new bill that the infrastructure bill, there's a piece in it that they're trying to get the legal age to transfer goods on trucks moved from 21 down to 18 so they can bring more young people into the market. They're trying to do every single thing they can right now to try to solve some of these problems. They're not going to solve them all, but right now there's a dire need for drivers to get under these trucks.
Yeah, so we're really in a it feels like with a lot of things, we've had this supply chain thing going on for a while, right?
Yes.
Long enough that I feel like most of us are starting to, us in the supply end as well as in the customer end, in the distributor end, accepting it as the new norm, right? It is what it is. Uh, Not good necessarily, but probably good from the standpoint is it probably is going to be what it is in some shape or form for the foreseeable future, because I don't see any of these things, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't see any of the things we talked about. There's no light at the end of the tunnel that's going to change any of that, right? And so I guess with that, we accept, and I'd love to hear your thought on this. We accept where we're at. The good news is business has been great, right? I mean,
Yes.
it'd be the bad news scenario with this would be if we was in these situations, and for lack of a better term, business sucked, right? But the good news is, everybody can't keep up just about. So
Right.
I guess we just accept that this is sort of the normal for now. Sometimes,
Yeah.
what's that serenity prayer or something, and I'll never get it right, but to understand the things you can change and understand the things you can't. And if we can't change this right now, I guess we better figure out how to weasel our way through this thing as best we can, right?
And you couldn't have said it any better, Randy. To me, it's not about price anymore. It's about removing cost from your supply chain, if that makes sense. It's finding reliable partners that you have great relationships, particularly on the mill side. And fortunately, we do have those. The dependability side of it. When they're telling you you're going to get your material, you're going to get it. And that's how dire it is right now. In the past, I want to say 6 months, not once have any of my top customers said anything about the price. My second largest customer, she says, I don't care what I pay for it. I just need steel to give to my customers because they're paying whatever they have to pay for it. It's the typical downstream model. And then also, traditionally, steel has been a very spot-driven market, especially in the last 10 years. The mills, now that they know the model, if you will, a lot of these spot opportunities are going to be going away. And I don't know how many of your customers that are on the show that are buying steel right now. It's probably a really difficult thing for them to even find any spot availability in the market right now. So we're recommending end users look into contractual deals with good partners. Contracts are a good thing. First and foremost, it guarantees you supply. And right now, if you don't have supply, you're not paying your bills. And also, I think I saw a question from Zach. Know what the numbers are. Be informed. We're a great resource for analytics. We have an entire team. Again, we talked about this earlier. All they do is look at numbers, trends. And these guys are very, very smart. And these are reports that we can provide to you and your customer base and your end users. If you go to our website, you go in the upper right-hand corner and you look at, there's a little tab that says the core report, CORE report. That's a great report. It's easy to read. It's not busy. It's 8 to 10, 12 pages, but it gives a good snapshot on a great deal of industries, not only talking about steel, but the housing market, the jobs, all those economic indicators that affect what's going on. And then most importantly, have better relationships. Better relationship with your suppliers equals a better supply chain, paying bills on time, and those kind of things. And you look at steel mills now, they're going to do business a lot different in the future because you look at so many outages now. And I was making some notes earlier. Cleveland Cliffs has taken their number 7 blast furnace offline for 45 days, beginning September 1st. That's the largest hot melt mill in the United States. So that's going to take about 500,000 tons out of the supply chain in that 60 days. That's a huge amount of steel coming out of the supply chain. U.S. Steel are taking 2 mills out for service 2 to 3 weeks. Big River, the EAF furnace, they're taking out for service. So again, they're being strategic in their approach to control the supply chain, control supplies, to control the pricing. And to George's point earlier, it's not all about the raw materials. It's about controlling capacity, controlling demand, because in the past, the steel mills would find themselves with an abundance of inventory at the end of some of these price hikes, and they'd have to flood the market with it, and the value goes right down the toilet.
There you go. Wes has got your web page up there, so people can go and subscribe. To look like to your newsletter or
yes.
Okay.
It's called the Core Report. Yep, right there in the lower left-hand corner. Subscribe to the Core Report, and that is a great piece to just gives you a snapshot of what's going on in the market. You get it every week. I think it's either Friday or Monday. I'm not for sure, but it's a great snapshot of what's going on in the industry and the economy as a whole.
Yeah, that's huge stuff, because Zach, that was a great question, and thank you, because as you hit on, probably more than anything is information is key right now, right? You have to know, because like you said, prices, not want to say it's irrelevant, but it's becoming a bit irrelevant. It's a matter of, do you have supply or you don't, and where is that supply? When am I going to get it? And I know that's been an issue too. And are you seeing, how much of that are you seeing from a standpoint of, let's say you're told we tell a customer it's going to be 4-week lead time, which is maybe twice as long as it was, but then 4 weeks becomes 5, becomes 7, becomes we don't know. I mean, and that's the other thing that we all have to deal with, right? Is the unknowns. It's an whole thing. A guy in the industry, some people will know who I met, but I'm not going to say. But used to say, it wasn't a lie when I said it, or it wasn't a lie because I believed it when I said it, right?
Right.
But we all find ourselves almost feeling like that at times, because we tell a customer something today, right, that we believe is true.
Yeah.
And based on information we have today, the best information we have is true. But unfortunately, before that 4-week period goes by, it becomes untrue, correct? I mean, how much, that's got to be going on every day in the steel world, right?
It does. And mid-year, we were still waiting on deliveries from the mills from January, February orders. That's how backlogged it was. And the majority of the industry now has all their customers on allocation. I know we're allocating all of our customers. We're not selling to a lot of our lower tiered customers, if you will, to support our partnership customers. Mm-hmm. So, and that's just, and what they've had to do is allocate that, or do that allocation program downstream, because we haven't seen any demand destruction at all. Construction is still at an all-time high. I work in the commercial trades vertical, which does a lot on the HVAC side. That is it's probably up 60% of our business. And right now, business is phenomenal. There's a lot of commercial projects going on, a lot of rehab, particularly with the COVID. Organizations redoing their air conditioning systems, heating and air conditioning unit shipments are at an all-time high. So it's not slowing down a bit. And people keep waiting. They wait a month, and they wait another month, and they wait another month. They're basing a lot of this on history, and right now history is rewriting itself.
Well, I think, and that's a good point you make, John, because we're getting to that time frame of the year, right, where, and you remember when we've been together places, forecasts and budgets and more so than ever, it's kind of like, I don't know, right? It's always a bit of a guess sometimes, right? It's an educated guess based on history. But like you said, history is rewriting itself so quickly that makes it real tough. All we can assume at this point, I think, is barring things that we don't see or can't control, we're going to keep right on rolling just like we are all the way through next year, right? I don't see anything that's going to drastically slow that down, or do you?
I don't. I think we would have seen that already. Now, a lot of folks on the show are probably thinking, God, does this guy have any good news for us on the buy side? Yes. Let me give a little nugget here. The increase in the CRU on the percentage side has drastically slowed the past several weeks. So you're seeing more of a plateau. than a momentum increase, if you will, if that makes sense. So I think sometime soon here in the next maybe 90 to 120 days, we'll see a plateau, really a hard plateau. And then it'll probably ride that line for a while and then start to adjust maybe Q1, early Q2. But again, don't look for it to be back in the good old days of 60-cent gas, because these mills, they know the secret sauce now, and they're going to control it. And they made a lot of bad decisions back in the early mid 2000s and a lot in the teens. It was all about just supply, 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 and really became undisciplined with the market. But now they look at the balance sheets. You see a lot of these companies that have had record years. The stock is at an all-time high. Who wants to ruin that, right?
Right. So we'll see the plateau at some point, and I'm kind of taking what you're saying, and but I'm going to ask the question anyways. We hit the plateau. We did this kind of a climb, right?
Absolutely.
We're probably not doing that kind of a dive, though, right?
Nope.
It's going to be a very gradual dive.
Absolutely. Spot on.
Spot on. Okay, yeah, there you froze for a second. So Barry wants to know. Now we're seeing how smart you are, John.
Yeah.
So what do you know about gas prices, John?
Leave it to this guy. Yeah, I know this guy.
Only Barry would come up with that one.
Absolutely.
It's going up, Barry, so fill your car quick.
Only on a Friday. Oh, man.
Yeah, well, that's our buddy Barry. So, but yeah, so I know you kind of froze up and on there for a second, but is that correct? It's going to be a very gradual comeback. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So Wes, as you met earlier, my producer, director, and buddy and pal and brother and friend, there you go. Guy, he thinks ahead of me. That scares me. He's in my head. Anyway, give me what's a couple 3 should ask questions that I haven't asked you, John, because we're probably another 4, 5, 6 minutes, and we should probably start thinking about banging on out of here. What haven't we talked about that you think folks ought to know?
Wow, that's a good question.
Other than when are we going to the Bull in the Alley in Tulsa, Oklahoma again?
Yeah, right. No, again, and it's not the questions that you don't ask. I would just say that to the folks that are listening, again, if you're buyer, owner of a company, just really ask these questions about finding good partners. Don't look for the guy who's got the best price in the marketplace. I've seen some really garbage product in the marketplace the last few months, visiting some of my customers. They've had a few foreign buys come in, and obviously you get what you pay for, right? At the end of the day, if you want to put that up on a roof and have it, want it to last for 30 or 40 years, it's probably not going to last. And again, just being informed. Take it upon yourself every day to check what the market's doing and find reliable sources to bring you your information. Because if you just go on the internet and Google steel pricing, you're going to get all kinds of different things. Not that I'm trying to hold up our organization versus anyone else, but I've been in the industry for a long time, and I've never worked for an organization or even come close to an organization that arms the customers with the information they need to make informed buying decisions based on what the market has done, what it's doing now, and forecasting, i.e. crystal balling of what's going to happen in the future. And right now, I talked about it earlier, removing cost from your supply chain. Forget what the price is. Think about removing cost from your supply chain. And I've been with the company since December, and I've learned a ton, and I've seen the market dynamic shift multiple times. And I've never seen anything like this in my entire life in the steel industry. And what we talked about earlier, it's not going to go back to where it was. Because I think at the end of the day, right, we all know history. We're all just sitting here hoping and praying that it comes back down to where it was No, there's a lot of guys and a lot of companies that are strengthening themselves and not just putting all the profits in their pockets. They're reinvesting in the market because what's coming down the pike is that infrastructure bill.
Right.
And just for people to put their head around that, we don't have the steel to do that bill right now or the next 3 to 4 years. And that's going to be buy American, build American.
Right.
And right now, with the current landscape of the market, we can't do it.
So that passes. That's a good point now. So that you took me in a direction I didn't think we were going, but it's interesting. So that passes, buy American. We don't have the steel. What's that going to do to our metal roofing industry that is who my listeners will be involved with?
I think on the hot strip side, and that's what you're talking about, right? The coated side.
Yep.
Supply chain, I don't think it's going to really affect it any more than it is now. You're more talking bar, plate, beam, the heavy duty stuff that they use in bridges, buildings. So on the hot strip side, not so much. But again, capacity is capacity. There's only so much iron ore pellets and coking coal and those things to go around. So obviously all those raw materials, I'm sure, will go up, and scrap right now with all these electric arc furnaces. Really, they're going away from the original oxygenated blast furnace. They're going more towards the electric arc furnace, less carbon emissions, better footprint. And with the new emissions that the administrations are putting in place, most companies are going strictly electric arc furnace, which the major component in electric arc furnace making steel is scrap. Prime number one, scrap. So if you got any washing machines or anything like that you want to get rid of, hang on to, because they'll probably be 3 or 4 times what you can get for them here in the next 3 to 5 years.
So, well, that's good advice, timely, because the hashtag Dixie chick and I she is deciding that we should need a new washer and dryer. So we probably shouldn't let the people that bring that haul it away. We should probably say, nah, we'll stick that in the corner of the garage, or might be retirement money, right?
Yeah. And buy that washing machine now, because you might not be able to get it in a few months.
Yeah. Good point. So, well, interesting. So, John, I mean, entertaining, interesting, and spot on, man. I couldn't have asked for more. I think that's exactly the message that people need to get. You don't always need to like what it is, but you need to know what it is. And maybe the last thing I want to touch on, because you hit it briefly, I think earlier we hit it, is allocations and those kind of things. Now is probably not the time, I'm going to guess, in your opinion, to be jumping from supplier to supplier to supplier, looking for that nickel cheaper here, nickel cheaper there, because we're going to take care of who are taking care of us, right, as suppliers.
Yep. And that's, again, and I think we touched on this a couple times, and I can't say strongly enough, leave the price out the window, guys. It's about value. And again, I can't say this enough, removing cost from the supply chain, dependability, and next year, and we're already negotiating mill contracts for next year. Gone are a lot of the things that they used to give in the past. And they're looking at their overall business model, because what you would find is you'd find some mills would sell direct maybe to some really high volume end users. They're not doing that anymore, because and particularly on the light gauge side, because these mills, their metrics are tons. Well, how many coils are you going to get out of a 12 gauge versus a 30 gauge? It's all about pumping tons of slabs through those mills, and then the converters, that they'd rather convert 12 gauge rather than 30 gauge. So, and for your metal roofing guys out there, it's most important that work with your supplier, keep that relationship strong. If it's $5 more than the other guy per square or whatever, pay it, because you're going to benefit in the long run, because supply is not going to get any better. It'll ebb and flow. But again, these are This is new history now.
Yep.
Gone are the good old days.
Yeah. So we make new good old days, right? I mean,
Exactly.
isn't
Nothing
that
wrong
just
with new
what we
good old
do?
days.
That's what we
Yep.
do. We
Yep.
what's the American way, the American spirit.
And you asked earlier about what a customer can do, and I know Barry's on the line here, and I learned a good hard lesson from him when I used to call on him way back in the day. He always give me the news. I don't care if it's bad or good, just I want the news.
Yep.
And I've never forgotten that. That's one of the best thing that anybody ever told me. I don't care if it's bad news or good news, just give it to me, because
Exactly.
I'll make my decisions based on that. And now I think the market, they're not numb to it, but again, it's about just being informed, whether it's good news or bad news.
Exactly. Exactly. And honest answers and as quick as possible, right? Because
Absolutely.
the old theory we've all used, but probably more so than ever, time is money, right?
Yep.
You need to know it. You need to know what the accurate is. If you can't ship it, tell me you can't ship it. Tell me when you can ship it, or I'm not ever going to ship it. Whatever the case is, but you got to give the customers that answer. So awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, beautiful. Well, John, you gave me 38, almost 40 minutes of beautiful time, and I appreciate
Love
it.
it.
Your is it a fount or a font? I've always wondered. I think it's a font of information. I always call it a fountain, but the Dixie chick always tells me that I'm wrong. But then again, just last year I learned to do the right there. So I'm a work in progress, my friend. But
Hey, anytime you want me to come on the show and talk about the industry, I'd be more than happy to, my friend. I really enjoy it.
well, you've been very good, and you know what we may do, yeah, and I appreciate that. Maybe we get into the first quarter here or something, and it might be time to just revisit this, just have this same discussion sort of again, but
Absolutely.
see where things have changed, right?
Yep.
I would
More than happy to.
I would love that. Well,
All
John,
right.
thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Randy, always my friend. Thank you, sir. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks for all you do, buddy. All right, cheers. Well, folks, there you have it, John Marchand. I hope you found that entertaining, not entertaining as much as interesting and educational. I thought John put forth very well where we stand right now, and I think once we get past the fact that, geez, we're waiting for it to change, it's going to get better. Well, things are pretty good in our industry right now from a standpoint of a lot of business. So let's be glad for that, feel blessed for that, and accept what is, and grasp it and move forward. So next week, who's coming up next week? Next week is one of my other value-added type guests that I try to have from time to time. Wes and I try to do on the show, which is people out of the industry that can bring us some really good value-added things, if you will. And this is a good friend of mine, Christine Harrington. Christine, the savvy sales lady. Christine and I've known each other now probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years, I would guess. And she's a coach, a trainer. She's just a sales guru, and I love her personality. You're going to love listening to her chat. She's going to talk a lot about lead generation and cold calling, which is something she's involved in a big project right now, and her concept on, because I think we all understand that cold calling is different than old was, because the old idea of calling up and saying, "Hey, who buys your stuff?" I mean, those things are things we can find now, right? We ought to be able to find if we use LinkedIn and we use Google and we use whatever other tools are at our disposal. It's more of a warm call as opposed to cold call, but she's going to chat with us about what she's doing, what she's seeing, what she sees work, and any other sales related topics. And you're going to love Christine next week, the savvy sales lady. It's going to be awesome. So until then, go have it a big, or go have it, go make it a great, awesome weekend. Great life, even with all the stuff going on, it's still a great life. It's great to be us. And so grasp life, seize it, live it, love it, own it. Go make it the best day ever. Till tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Cheers, y'all.